Hello, you alright? I don't know whether I should have some regular welcome on here. It might be a nice thing to do, but yeah, whatever. So I wanted to start today basically by saying thank you to everybody. I've had unimaginable numbers of really lovely comments. It really means well to me, and it's really comforting that we can come together and be nice and decent, and for there to be somewhat of a meeting of minds of people who really value justice and in the terrible tragedy that has befallen Lucy Letby. I think this is a beautiful little thing to hold on to. Now, so I will be ripping up the fluffy good vibes and dumping you into the horrors that were 90s comedy. Here goes. Have a little looky.
All right, you will notice that I am fully dressed. I, in turn, have noticed that you are not. So, in the words of A.A. Milne, get out of my chair, dill hole.
Ah, funny, isn't it?
Okay.
What? No. Oh my God. He did what? Somebody not long ago actually suggested that I go back and look to see if I thought it was funny now. Like, she was quite a fan, and that was not a good idea. I was just appalled, disgusted, really. Terrible. And which reminded me of having some mates who I thought were quite cool in my early teens, and going round and finding out that they loved it. They used to clap along in the intro. It's just, I was way too alternative and punk and maybe a bit serious, but you know, I had too good a taste in comedy to enjoy that. Anyway, it goes on.
Why can't you just wear the underwear you're wearing now?
Because I'm not wearing any underwear now.
Okay, then why do you have to wear underwear tonight?
It's a rented tux, okay? I'm not gonna go commando in another man's fatigues.
Okay, yeah, ringing a bell yet? Let's go on.
Okay, buddy boy, here it is. You hide my clothes, I'm wearing everything you own. Look at me, I'm Chandler. Could I be wearing any more clothes? Maybe if I wasn't going commando.
Yes, it's the Commando reference, which you will understand if you've been in any way conscious of public discussion surrounding Lucy Letby's prosecution and conviction. So it's often said that in court she lied and lied and lied. And then it becomes, it's almost an elitism, actually, that the people who were there in court are the only ones who got a real, get a real sense of the evidence. So you could be Shu Lee, whose paper was so frequently cited, going to the Court of Appeal, testifying there and saying these don't match. But you could be an expert in your field, whether that's endocrinology or neonatology or whatever. But this is all secondary if you weren't there to see Lucy Letby stumble over her words. It's people who have 10 months to spend sitting in a court case. They're the ones who we should be listening to. Stuart Gillam did a great video mentioning how Judith Moritz had said, saying because the evidence is so contested, we have to look to the secondary bits, like her failing in court, getting tied in knots, etc. So those people who had sat in on it are then given a disproportionate amount of power and control over the narrative. And this also brings us back to the point that adversarial trials are, to some degree or other, and I suspect the more senior the casey, the more adept they are at this, they are performances. And one of the best examples I can think of this is, and it shows you in there's several, I think the People versus O.J. Simpson was a great example, but Johnny Cochran was O.J. Simpson's attorney. He was trying to suggest that Nicole Brown and Ron Goldman, I think it was, were murdered because Nicole Brown had a friend who owed money over cocaine, he didn't have evidence for this. But the tension in court is sky high. He gets a fax through while he's in the middle of cross-examination, and it is the Colombian necktie moment. And this was a real gotcha moment and extraordinarily persuasive, according to the jurors. This sort of thing is more likely to happen, I suspect, when the evidence is very technical. We instinctively, I mean, certainly after 10 months, you're going to get very tired, aren't you? I mean, who knows what level of competence these jurors had in understanding these subjects. Then in the middle of this, you have Lucy Letby, who has been in jail for 2 years on remand and diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. She's been a captive patient for years now during the worst times of her life, and while people on Twitter say she's a diagnosed narcissist and psychopath, it's not true. I haven't even seen internet psychiatrists suggest that. We just know PTSD has been diagnosed. I don't think that people understand the cognitive impact of PTSD at all. PTSD can cause physical brain damage, and the cognitive effects are very unpredictable and really debilitating. When I talk about post-traumatic stress, without wishing to dismiss or diminish those who have not been able to see a psychiatrist, I would also caution that quite a lot of people say they have it when they haven't actually been properly diagnosed. And this kind of waters down the public's perception of what it is. So my best example, I was talking to my daughter about maths the other day, and she absolutely hates it. As soon as numbers appear on a page, her head just closes. She gets into, well, it's not a panic, I don't want to exaggerate it, but she suddenly, after a couple of questions, she just, especially if you're breaking down an equation into simpler equations, she can't even answer the most simple things that she definitely knows. It's like she's been cornered, and she would say almost anything to get out of it and make you stop. And like I say, with money, she's fine. She really likes mechanics, and she's fabulous with stuff like that. But when it's the written numbers on a page, and her brain closes shut. And so, yeah, I think maybe lots of us can relate to that. And that's just the closest thing I can think of as to having PTSD, and when something particularly triggers or stresses you, just your brain freezes. I was diagnosed with PTSD like 15 years ago. Yeah. So when you're in a life or death situation, your brain kind of splits into lots of different directions. Meaning you just have multiple different thoughts and sets of planning going through your head. Time has slowed down, but it feels like parts of you separate off into different directions. And for me, they've never fully come back together. And so simultaneously, I can be aware of what's going on. I can be thinking about what I would tell people if I was to die, what I would want people to remember. I can think of ways in which I can get out of a situation. I can't really fully concentrate on the situation I am in. Any upset, any stress, I'm gone. And when that happens, another survival mode kicks in, which is going to be flight or fight. Your brain shuts down. You cannot think. You just need to get away, and you might become very aggressive in doing that, or you might just shut down completely. Now, the attack on myself that caused this PTSD happened 20 years ago. It's a long time. When it happened, I was immediately believed. Immediately, there was no question of that. The police were not great at all, but they did believe me. The judge sent this man down for, well, not as long as 20 years, but his psychiatric issues have meant that he has been retained. I was comforted by people. I was given practical and emotional support, even though the rest of the situation I was in was awful, and it stayed awful for quite a long time. But yeah, there was no question that I was believed. I got talking therapy. I had hypnotherapy as well to help with the flashbacks. And Lucy Letby hasn't had any of that. Every single person in the English-speaking world is aware of what she's been accused of. She knows she's at risk of attack in jail, and her parents are hated and vilified. Then she has stood in court in front of all of those people, the parents as well, who, I mean, that must be so distressing. If you've ever been accused of anything you haven't done, like that is a serious thing, you'll have insight into just how distressing and aggravating that is. You can't sleep for the constant nagging at you that you didn't do this and how are you going to prove it and how could they do this to you. It really is a recipe for madness. Then she'd been on remand for 2 years. She'd lost her house. She'd had to give her cats back to the RSPCA. I think that's really underestimated how disturbing that is. She's seen all the heartbreak her parents have gone through. She's realised that people have betrayed her. She is rendered incoherent. She can't speak properly, according to KC Ben Myers, which delayed the trial by a week. She's heavily medicated. She is surrounded by people who do not believe her. Hardly anyone believes her, and then she has to travel 2.5 hours to and from the courts each day to end up in a courtroom where an expert KC catches you up on tiny little things, the confusion, the complete hijacking of your memory, the ability to think in a linear way is entirely destroyed, and now you're sitting there being picked apart, and then you're confronted with this doctor who was pursuing you and saying, oh, you're the only person I'd ever trust with my children, rip into you and betray you. All the while, also in that courtroom are the parents of these babies that you were heartbroken about when they died, and they hate you. Of course she shut down. There's honestly very little other option for somebody's traumatized brain in that situation to do. You shut down or you become aggressive. That's it. She has to listen to this doctor who was pursuing her and flirting, and then he just turned his back on her and just completely betrayed her. Yeah, anyway, this is from an article in the BBC by Judith Moritz and Jonathan Coffey. I'm guessing Moritz wrote this bit, but there was no denying her emotions when the man appeared in court to give evidence against her. Letby, visibly distressed for the first time during her trial, she tried to leave the dock, claiming to feel unwell. People make this point all the time, and Nicholas Johnson also made this point all of the time, that this was the first emotion she'd shown. She'd only just been up on the stand, so she hadn't had the chance to react to other things, and she definitely cried plenty of times over the babies. And we know when she was working there she cried a lot, but obviously when that happened, that was her being manipulative, yeah? So she tried to leave the dock and said that she felt unwell, but this is the article again. But prosecutor Nick Johnson KC replied, no, it's because you didn't like hearing your boyfriend giving evidence, did you? I don't know, I'm sure lots of people can relate to a time that you've been very upset about something and you just can't bear to hear anymore. Just stop. You'll be begging people to just stop talking to you about it. This is disgusting. It's torture. Judith Moritz goes on about her appearing aloof and indifferent. Lots and lots of people cite this, and this is the value of being in that courtroom, allegedly. And it's the same with her being shown her bedroom, while she's sleeping in a cell. This is disgusting. It's really appalling. This poor woman, she's had to talk about these babies for years now, incredible detail, with obviously the full knowledge that if she gets anything wrong, she will be banged up for life. But apparently this is okay in a British court of law. It's okay to treat someone like this. She can't escape to the woods like I do for a nice walk. That she wasn't reduced to an aggressive wreck speaks to her character an awful lot. Now, apparently it's not unusual for defendants to be given sedation when testifying. We know that she was rendered incoherent, unable to speak properly, delaying the trial by a week. And she couldn't sleep without sleeping tablets and was prescribed antidepressants. Antidepressants, lots of people are on antidepressants. I'm sure loads of people have thought, yeah, well, I am. It doesn't affect me. But antidepressants that's a huge class of drugs. It runs the gamut from Prozac and citalopram to really heavy psychiatric drugs that can cause really profound side effects like dribbling and, like partial face dropping, weight gain, sweating, things that definitely change your demeanor. And obviously the dose makes the poison as well. Like I say, getting out into the woods, like being out in nature, that sort of thing, the escape has been absolutely integral to me keeping my sanity at all. And this woman doesn't have any of that. She can't stay around her friends to feel safe. She can't lie in bed cuddling her best friend and crying. She can't do these things. She cannot go for a walk in the woods and sit under a tree. She can't do any of that. She is in a constantly managed inside environment. I cannot imagine anything worse. It makes me feel claustrophobic and sick to even contemplate it. But yeah, let's not mourn over a serial killer. Apparently this woman deserves no empathy or even being related to like a fellow human being. Anyway, so of course I now have to look at Crime Scene to Courtroom, and let's see how he relays the cross-exam. Crime Scene to Courtroom, having also had the enriching experience of watched this poor traumatized woman tripping over her words and then being strung up by them. Things like, I knew what I was looking at, crossed up with looking for, being turned into whole videos as if they are hitting exposés, showing her deep-seated addiction to being deceptive. Yep, here we go. Go Commando, false medical notes and texting whilst feeding, which that's another sideshow to embark on one day. And also, before I start, I would just like to encourage you to think about the voice acting he's employing here, whether he thinks this is an accurate representation of what she sounded like in court or not, without adding that she was on psychiatric meds and has PTSD. It seems thoroughly vindictive and dishonest to me.
There was nothing between me and Dr. A. Did Nurse E think you were sweet on Dr. A? What do you mean by sweet on? Had a crush on him? No. Well, let's see how she replied then. 112. This is about your weird, strange, message from Dr. A earlier. Did you? Saying what? And without me reminding you, can you remember what the next thing was she said? No. Really? Yes. Let's look. What does that mean? Is it a reference to the Royal Marines? I don't know. You don't know? Go Commando. You don't understand what that means. Well, you understood it because if we go to 114, you found it highly amusing. So what did you understand the message to mean? I don't know. I can't say right now. I don't know. Do justice to yourself. What did you understand Go Commando to mean? I don't know. Did you think this was an army reference? You being from Hereford? I don't know. These messages continued. I'll just concentrate on the ones from you. 126, I don't flirt with him. That's a response to her message at 122 where she says, he's as flirty as you. Are you still saying you don't know what Go Commando means? Yes.
You would have to be absolutely certain, I think, to believe that this kind of questioning and harassment under cross-examination in court on a subject who has an inflicted mental health condition is acceptable. The laser focus, the trying to lull her into a false sense of security before something else is dumped on her. This just reminds me of being in a relationship with an abusive man, to be honest. It looks exactly the same as what he did. It makes me feel sick. There's a really similar trip up over her being arrested in her nightie, or was it a Lee Cooper tracksuit? Much hay has been made with that, even though it's quite clearly a mix-up. So here is Johnson talking to her about whether she had a nightie on or whether it was her tracksuit. So a couple of things. One, the different arrests. One, she was arrested in 2018 and she was arrested in 2019. She's confusing them, and so is he. She's clearly talking about the 2019 arrest when she was at her parents' home. She has no issue admitting that she was in her Lee Cooper suit in 2018 and that she had a nightie on underneath. And what I would like to point out is that as a woman, if you don't have a bra on and you can't take your hoodie off without being seen in like flimsy nightwear, you don't feel safe. But whatever. This is gold, yeah? Bang to rights. Because how can you ever believe somebody who just lies about inconsequential, meaningless, insignificant things? You can't, can you? She must be a murderer. Going back to the Friends clip, Lucy Letby was born in 1990. That episode of Friends came out in 1996. She was 6 years old, okay? And it turns out it actually comes from the Vietnam War, so it's quite an old term. And I would love to do a reliable poll of people of her age and what they understand that to mean. And I should be popping up some screenshots as well about just other people asking what it means, just to kind of show that it's hardly a universally recognised term. So, in addition, she's just returning laughing emojis. She'll go commando with Dr. A. She's just returning them. Dr. A is ugly. He has a face a mother would struggle to love, quite frankly, and age has certainly got the better of him. So, there's no evidence whatsoever that they ever had sex or spent the night together or intimate text, nothing. It certainly looks to me like she has simply returned a laugh react like somebody might do if they didn't get the joke but knew it was meant to be funny. And it's almost like she kind of swerves the subject a little bit then, or returns to what she was actually talking about. Anyway, Dr. A, the dishonest, deceitful man who was clearly pursuing a nurse many years younger despite being married, leaking her information. He is a perfectly credible source. We all know what men are like, hey? That's kind of the undertone. He was a victim of her feminine wiles. Yeah, a victim, all right? Who cares about that? The rest of his evidence is entirely trustworthy. And should be taken at face value, and I don't see anyone vilifying him, despite talking to her, like sharing information he should not have. And, then suddenly turning on his heel and doing a complete 180 and seeing her as a murderer. Remarkable change. Anyway, Lucy Letby didn't make these going commando references. Even though there's plenty of people on Twitter and Facebook saying she did. She did not. She just returned a laugh emoji. There have been literally 0 boyfriends emerge from her past, as we don't know that she's ever even had one. She could still be a virgin for all we know. Yeah? No history of a relationship has appeared whatsoever, but she's a career-concerned woman with teddy bears on her bed. But nonetheless, she is a mistress of temptation. She has completely entranced this man and waylaid him from the good moral path. Yeah, and then it's that she bought a house by a cemetery. Don't forget that. My goodness, she bought it's almost like she went into the estate agents and said, "Get me the house closest to the baby memorial." This is ludicrous. One moment the teddy bears are creepy, and though I am inclined to agree, it completely fits with the rest of her character. But then the next moment she's this evil wench who wishes to reside by and overlook the cemetery for babies and that sort of terrible thing. She's either sickly sweet or patently evil. And it might get worse. For all we know, she could have been collecting herbs at some point. Where's Matthew Hopkins when you need him? If you could find evidence of her going collecting herbs or making a remedy for something, then that even just strengthens it, because no one laughs along at a joke they don't get. Returning a laughing emoji at a joke you don't understand, you're meant to be serious, yeah? You ask what that means, just in case it means something bad. But yeah, this is British justice, the best in the world. This is what it takes to lock her up for life, because she's just a born liar. People laugh along at jokes they don't understand all the time because they don't want to seem stupid or naive. And obviously there was a feeling around Lucy Letby that she was naive. And maybe she found that a little bit embarrassing. But whatever, when the evidence is contested and it's all circumstantial, which hasn't even met the standard of it being the most likely explanation, then she's done for. What other explanation? She must be convicted. It's compelling. And then look at all these things that make her look really innocent and naive. That, in fact, is actually evidence of her ontological evil. Yeah? Are we seeing the circular logic here yet? Are we? Do you think? Oh my goodness, I really despair at how maliciously dumb so many people are. How ravenously they seize upon anything that they can manipulate into a story. This is really horrible and sadistic. This is sadism. It really is. People are hoping that she gets attacked in prison and that she suffers every day of her life. People love saying she will die in jail. There was much glee to meet the discussion over, well, essentially it's almost impossible she'll be released even for her parents' funerals, or, pet, or say goodbye to her cats, or go round her mum's for a cup of tea or nothing. And all of this cobbled up nonsense is strengthened by these gotchas. This is all just and it is fine, and those who are questioning it are conspiracy theorists who don't care about their children, and this is in our name. So you get all these weak bits of evidence and you stick them all together with some armchair psychology. You accuse other people of being armchair detectives. All of this is absolutely fine because some people, at least they say, that for 10 whole months they went to a courtroom and sat through it every day. They didn't have work or anything. They're important people. Forget your statisticians and neonatologists. It's the people with 10 whole months who have the time to go and sit in a court. They're the ones with the inside story and the real insight. Yeah, we must bow to these fonts of all knowledge, the people who really know what went on in that courtroom. Anyway, thank you so very much if you've watched all of this. I'm just really blown over by the nice replies I have had. And here are just a few results, what I got when I typed into TikTok, laughing along when I didn't actually get the joke. Thanks so much. Take care and see you soon.
So many in the film industry with the writer strike and the actor strike, but I've been chatting to BAFTA and asking, is the future for screenwriters and actors looking rosy? And I can tell you, they say aye. Although they do spell that AI, so I don't... This is the...
Oh, wait. Yeah.
Oh, that's great, isn't it? That's
Yeah.
great, yeah.
Wait, do you get it?
Yeah.
No, what part's funny?
Ooh, it's just...
Did you even watch the video?
It's funny.
Then I said, that's not pumpkin, that's
Funny. Harry?
Because you got Kimmel.
That's right. Oh my god, I don't even... Was it...
Your agriculture. I like that. Your Judge Judy. I like that one.
Responsibility is like putting economic policy before fiscal responsibility is like putting the cart before the horse.
That is hilarious, Grandpa. I'll read another one, Greg.
I have absolutely no idea what's going on.
That's actually hilarious. Hilarious.
Do you love me anymore? Like, if you wanted to, you would. Don't beg it. That's the it. Gotta put one L to the left and gotta put one L to the right. And everyone scream.
Hey, they even have dollar stores.
I didn't get it.
I love your straight hair. Straight. Oh, you get it? Because the hair's gay?
Y'all put up and y'all was
sort of blue.
Coming like heavy metal round. If you got a business, bro, please set in stone like rock, raw. I came with a brand new book. Like man, have guys all shot, don't like Uzi, but this thing rocks, rock.
Texting?
Texting who?
My sister.